G'day folks, it's your boy Tomko Chan here once again with another video. Today we're having a look at my Zoodiac deck profile. This is the deck that I took to my most recent OTS locals, which is open back up, which is really good here in Melbourne, Australia. It's good to get out and actually play some physical version of this card game once more, and I decided to bring this deck as you guys saw in the last video, which I'll post up here. I actually did manage to pull the AA Zeus, which is great, which really makes this deck shine and really brings it to its full potential. So we'll get into the profile now. Before we do, if you guys do enjoy my videos and my content, make sure you give us a like, give us a subscribe, and comment down below, you know, what you think of Zoodiac being back in the format after it was stomping, you know, back in the day in 2017 or whenever it was, really running rampant, and it's getting back to those levels now, which I think is absolutely fantastic. Also in the description below, I've also got a Discord that you guys can sign up to, and I'll also post my Instagram down there, where I'll just be, you know, showing off a few photos here and there and that sort of thing. So without keeping you guys waiting any longer, let's jump straight into it. Alright guys, so we're going to be starting off with our main deck here. To begin with, we are running 3 copies of Zoodiac Thoroughblade. It's obviously you run it at 3, it's a staple in this deck. 3 copies of Zoodiac Ram. This card is actually really good in the format at the moment. This dodges stuff like Fogblade, Imperm, all that sort of thing, not once per turn on the negate, as well as the effect 2 special summon from the grave is also delicious as well. We've got our 3 copies of Zoodiac Whiptail, pretty standard also. This is our main deck out for things like Winder, does out Winder quite nicely, as well as Dragoon. This can out Dragoon if you've baited the negate already. During the battle phase, you can obviously, after damage calculation, just banish that Dragoon, regardless of if your monster destroyed or takes damage or anything like that, which is good. And to round it out, we have the 1 Zoodiac Rapier, because it is at 1, and also we're actually playing 1 copy of Zoodiac Cataroost as well, which is pretty unstandard for most Zoodiac decks, but I'll explain the reasoning why I like to play the Cataroost at 1 here. I often find myself with occasionally hands that are awkward, which are not enough Zoodiac names. You know, I'll draw hands of just hand traps, back row, what have you, whatever. So I feel like the extra Zoodiac I actually needed in my deck for that extra 1 name, that extra number, because a Zoodiac monster by itself is good going first and good going second in this deck. Regardless of what else you draw, you still at least have the access to either a pop through Dryden in your first turn, or you have access to AA Zeus going second, you know, with your attack direct with your Zoodiac Borbo. So having the extra Zoo was definitely a plus at this week's locals, the OTS. And I also like it for the end phase effect failure before going into battle phase. Obviously you can negate that, which is beautiful as well. So that's our Zoodiac lineup. Next for the monsters, we'll move on to our hand traps. So we are running 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. Still a great staple in today's format. Hits a lot of things. I wouldn't, you know, remove from the deck at any point. I wouldn't play Gamma because I think it's a bit bricky. I play it in the side, but in the main deck I feel like it is just a bit bricky and it doesn't really work with some other cards that I play. Next we got 3 copies of Effect Veiler. This card is very underrated and still great. The fact that it's not once per turn helps in certain matchups, especially matchups that play Dragoon. This deck is actually very good against playing through Dragoon and against Dragoon can bait out the negates, and obviously, you know, they do their full combo. You can negate one thing, and if you have the second effect Veiler, you simply wait for the Predator Plant, which they're going to go into, and then you negate that, and then there is no Dragoon for you to worry about. And for our last 2 hand traps, we are actually playing the 2 Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. This is a really good card. Puts a body on the field, which is great. Gives you targeting protection, which is also very important, as I've explained before, for this deck. And, you know, it didn't come up when I played at my most recent locals. I was actually thinking about shifting it out this week, the next locals, for 2-dimensional shifter. So I might actually try that and see if it is a bit better, and then I'll decide if I still want to play this or not. I'd play the Nibiru's in this spot if I had them. Unfortunately, I don't. I'll pick them up in the future, but this is still not too bad. So that's it for our monster lineup. Moving on to our spells. for our first lot of spells, we have the 1 Zoodiac Barrage, 3 Tenki, this is obviously for searching. We have the 2 Desires, as well as the 2 Avarice for our draw power. Desires is great in this deck. You don't, because you play 3 of most of everything, you play a lot of a high zoo count, a lot of the one-ofs, it doesn't matter too much if you banish, like it doesn't matter too much if you banish Barrage or combo or anything like that. Letting you see extra cards is very important, and this actually is so boss in the grind game. This puts, you know, all your Zoodiac monsters back in the extra deck, and then you can draw 2. This puts Zeus back in the extra deck, which came up a couple of times at locals. And yeah, I wouldn't cut this card. I wouldn't put it at 3 because I think that's a bit cloggy, but 2 is absolutely perfect. Yeah, wouldn't remove that from the deck at all. Coming up next, we have our triple Book of Moon. This card is just a really good main deck staple. If you come up against other Zoodiac decks, which I didn't at my locals, but you know, you always got to be prepared. Once they summon a Zoodiac monster, you can just flip it face down, and that kind of ends their turn for the most part, unless they draw Barrage. But you know, Barrage is a one-off, so it's not 100% likely. So great card against Winder as well. Great card for baiting out Mechaba, all that sort of thing. It's actually really, really good. I'm glad it's at 3. So going on to our next 2 spells, we have the Cosmic Cyclone. You have to respect the back row still in today's metagame. Cards like Schism, you know, decks like Altergeist, decks like, obviously, you got Dogmatica, you know, playing their Punishment and all that sort of thing. If you can hit that before you go into your plays, this is absolutely vital. Hit the strikes, all that sort of thing. So 2 Cosmic definitely in the main deck. Makes perfect sense to me. And rounding it out, we have 1 copy of Call by the Grave, 1 Monster Reborn, and we have a Living Fossil. Now, Call by the Grave obviously makes perfect sense in this deck. Gets rid of the Ash, gets rid of the Ogre. The Ogre is very good against this deck, so having one of these is very important. Now, the Monster Reborn and Living Fossil, I want to play as many extenders as possible, including the Barrage, because your plays can be stopped. Definitely, Gamma ruins your turn, and both these cards actually are really good against Gamma, because baits out the Gamma. Obviously, your monster goes to the grave, and then you can just reborn it, and then you save the Borbo, you know, if you last summon or whatever, go into battle phase and attack direct, and then you can go into Zeus. And the same theory with Living Fossil as well. Great extender, you know, allows you to go into Megaclops and all that sort of thing. Also, you know, you can really, really overextend with these 3 cards here, so I really think they're very important in this deck. Let's move on up to our trap lineup now. Relatively small. We do like to go first in this deck, so I am actually playing 3 copies of Solemn Strike. Absolutely great card. It's not even bad going second, as we saw most recently, I think it was in the PPG, one of their invitationals or their regionals or whatever. The Zoodiac player was going second, and he had the strike, and it just worked out. You can just set the strike. You know, the following turn, if they don't OTK you, you can do your play safely, because then you actually have this strike in hand, which is fantastic. Really good card. Just says no to a lot of cards. You got to play it. And also, let me just refocus here, sorry. All right, we're playing the 1 copy of Zoodiac Combo. This is great for the unexpected Whiptail from deck, which definitely happens a lot, as well as the Banish to Recycle. You notice I'm actually playing a lot of shuffle cards in this deck, because I do need to put my extra deck back in from the grave to my extra deck quite often. It does run through it quite, you know, massively in this deck. So the last trap that we do have is our 1 copy of Red Reboot. Again, this is for stuff like Schism. So important against Schism. Winder is really, really tough to out if you don't draw your outs. You can sometimes, but if you don't draw your outs, having stuff like Reboot is very important. And then you can go into Zeus, and it doesn't even matter what back row they set, because you can clear it. So that's it for our main deck. 40 cards sharp on there. Let's move on to the extra deck now. So for our Zoodiac lineup of the extra deck, we are playing the 1 Trident, the 1 Hammer Kong. We're going with 2 Tiger Mortar here, double Charcanine. This is all pretty cookie cutter, pretty standard, but we're actually going for the triple Borbo for the last Zoodiac monster. The reason I'm playing 3 of this, it's the most important one. Also, I actually only have 1 copy of AA Zeus, as you guys saw last week. I only pulled the 1 copy, which is, you know, expected. You're not going to get 2 in a box. I'll pick up the next one in the future, but for now, this is the lineup that I'm going to play. So 3, 2, 2, 1, 1 makes perfect sense. Trident is at 1. You don't need more than 1 Hammer Kong, and you know, the other 2, they can all be shuffled back into the extra deck, which is really good. Great cards. I really missed this card actually. It's fantastic that it's back. Moving on for a couple of extra XCs monsters, we have the one Digusto Emerald. Again, same deal, running one Zeus. I do need to shuffle it back in so I can make this card from time to time. It's very important for shuffling back in your Zoodiac monsters as well, and getting that extra draw is fantastic. We got the one number F0 Utopic Future. This can actually steal wins in the battle phase quite easily and unexpectedly. You know, if they put up a wall, this just takes a wall for the most part and uses it against them. It's absolutely fantastic. We have the one Jewel Driver Vespernato. This is for the extra damage. Pretty cool card. You can overlay one of your Zoodiac monsters pretty much straight away with it, and 2.5, and I believe does piercing damage as well. As well as if it's destroyed, you can target a 1 level 5 or lower monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So that comes up too, which is awesome. Obviously paired with Dryden, and you can special summon one of your Zoodiac monsters. So, for the last XCs card, we have this fantastic, I hope it never gets banned, Divine Arsenal AO Zeus Sky Thunder. This card is just an absolute ripper. This destroys boards, absolutely destroys boards, and it is so simple for Zoodiac to make this deck, it's not even funny. Absolute ripper. I wish I had two. I'll pick up another one in the future, just hasn't happened yet. I've been waiting for someone to bring one to local so I could trade for them instead of buying it online. I may have to buy it online because it's just such a good card, but not once per turn, easy to summon, big body, 3/3, absolutely fantastic card. And for our last couple of extra deck monsters, we have two links. We've got Nightmare Phoenix and Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops. So Nightmare Phoenix is obviously for our back row. I'd be running Darumadol if I had it. Don't have it, no big deal. Phoenix fills that role entirely. And we also have the Infinitrack Megaclops, Fortress Megaclops. A lot of decks will struggle to out this, for the most part, if they're not playing, you know, stuff like Imperm or Book of Moon. Book of Moon doesn't touch this, sorry, my apologies. But you know what I mean, if they're not playing Forbidden Chalice, anything like that, and they don't have the Xyz monster, this can be very difficult to out. This takes care of the Dragoon again. Anything that kills Dragoon is good in a deck, so, and you can make this quite easily. So that's rounding it out for our extra deck there. Moving on now to our side deck. Now, my side deck is obviously, you know, towards my locals. Do the side deck whichever way you like. It just kind of works. I play against a lot of invoked decks, and yeah, I think there's about 3 invoked decks, different variants, Shadows, as well as Dogmatica, as well as Mech Knight. So it is pretty heavily focused towards beating invoked and those sort of decks, as well as some back row decks and that sort of thing. So we've got the one Dino Wrestler Pankratops. Great card. It's a 1 for a reason, because it's absolutely busted. I think it's a side deck staple in any deck. We've then got 3 Kaijus in Humongous, Gamsil, and Gardala. They're just the ones I have. I'm considering playing Interrupted Kaiju Slumber as well, in the event that there are more Zoo decks popping up at our locals. Haven't seen any yet, but it's just a thought in the back of my head at this point as well. But this does take care of a threat and then allows you to attack direct and go into Zeus. That's the main idea of having these Kaijus siding and going second, especially against your big boy Dragoon. Everyone knows it's a monster. Next, we do have the Gamma package. Now, we do have to play this against certain decks. Certain decks like Infernoble, which is one that rocks up at my locals. You got to hit that. You got to hit that Isolde, really. And having the extra Gammas, you know, I'd rather have this than have the Ash against it. I'll often side out the Ash against that deck, because this actually does remove that threat, which is great. And it also obviously hits the Verte Anaconda. Moving on now to another couple of cards in our side deck. The only other spell we have is the extra Cosmic Cyclone. I'll often side out the red reboot for this if I just need, you know, more banishing removal against decks like Eldritch and that sort of thing, or if the reboot's not going to really come up, I'll side this in. It's very important to, you know, don't forget the back row is still a deck, and that's why we played the extra Cyclone there. For the last few cards, we do have 2 copies of Dimensional Barrier, as well as 1 copy of Ice Dragon's Prison. Side these in going first. Good against a lot of decks. There's not that many decks kind of these days that are solely playing Link, so this does hit stuff like Virtual World that's coming out. This hits Virtual World as well. This hits Dragoon. This hits a number of decks, which is very good. Both very good cards. And for our last little spice that we have in the extra deck, like I said, a lot of my locals is playing Invoke, so we are actually playing 3 side deck copies of Chain Disappearance. Now, you probably may or may not know what this card does. This card was around a little bit during Spiral format to get rid of the, you know, the quick fix. You could just banish it and then banish all copies from their deck. This is actually a really good card going first against Invoked, because it basically just removes that portion of their engine, which is what you want to do. You know, you don't have to deal with the Mechaba negate, you don't have to deal with the Algodius or whatever it is, as well as the flame guy, you know, going second. If you just remove that threat, that is one portion of their deck that's gone. And yeah, like I was saying, a lot of Invoke players at my local, so I main deck 3 of these. Might change it up in the future, we'll see how we go, but it's been good for now. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. As always, I do appreciate you guys tuning in every week. Much love to you all. Like I said, give us a subscribe if you're enjoying the videos. As an actual main deck card I was thinking about putting in this deck was, I don't have it here on me, but Smoke Grenade Thief. I was thinking about main decking going first. Could be a little bit cheesy, but set up the Dryad, you know, pop your own Smoke Grenade, see their hand, remove a threat. I think it could be alright. I might actually try it out this week just to see how it goes. And yeah, I'll let you guys know next time. But thanks for tuning in, and have a lovely day, guys. Cheers.